Man, I remember those Bonn days. Hello, I'm Emmet Ryan, and welcome to BallinEurope. And we're here to talk about the Grizz. So let's change the cap today. Well, we change the cap every day, but I just wanted the dramatic effect. Alrighty, okie dokie. So Tuomas Iisalo is, of course, the new coach at the Memphis Grizzlies. I nearly said Vancouver because of the hat, but we will be talking about that. Obviously, it comes in the after the ousting of Taylor Jenkins as head coach, despite the Grizzlies having a very good regular season record. But as obviously they have struggled since the All-Star break. Iisalo has already, taken the job on an interim basis. We're going to discuss like what he brings because it's more than the 9 games he's going to have in the regular season. There will be a postseason that matters more, and basically what he's done before that makes me confident he can be the guy. And lastly, why I'm very high on him in Memphis. So if you haven't already, please subscribe. And now let's get to it. So the Grizzlies were they made a big call. It was a very, very, very big call. Like, your coach has a really good record this season, win loss that is. But since the All-Star break, which is, you know, not that long ago, it's been a pretty below anything record. And of course, the Grizz are confident of having a deep run this postseason, and they've got a lot of talent. But then there was, of course, the incident between Baines and Aldama, although they seem to have made up as good buddies again. So that's nice, because you don't want to see players actually falling out, like, showing their passion, brilliant, but obviously to a certain degree gets a bit scary. So what's Iisalo got that's going to really make it work? Well, I've got a few notes written down here for myself, which are always useful. So I suppose the key thing is that it's not like he's brand new. Obviously, he's new this season, and that is going to be important, but he's not starting from scratch. He knows the roster, he knows the system, he knows the strengths and weaknesses that he's working with, and he also probably knows what he thinks is being underutilized or, ignored that could be done better. We'll get more into that later in the video, but there's a lot to like there. He still, however, is bringing fresh knowledge, fresh perspective. Like, he's a very, very young coach, still very much in his 30s, and that's going to make him more relatable, obviously, to a lot of the players, despite being, from, Finland and sounding very different to everybody else. So, yeah, that's going to be a help, is that he has that relatability. And he's also used to having to work from underneath, which we'll get to a bit more in section 2. But he knows the system, yet at the same time he's fresh. It's this kind of nice balance. Like the players aren't treating him like a stranger, but at the same time they know he's very different as a boss. Oh, well, that's my bag for my trip that I'm going on in about 2 hours after I record this, falling down. So yeah, there's a lot to like here. It's both fresh, yet at the same time knowledgeable, knows the players, has his own ideas, can make some adjustments. If you're going to make an in-season adjustment, obviously you want to do it from within where possible, if it's the right move. And as in-season adjustments go, you probably aren't going to get the better blend, essentially, than Tuomas Iisalo. So that's a big plus. But, as I have a sip of my coffee here, let's get on to why I really, really like him. So one of my many hats, as some of the regular viewers of the channel will know, is I'm also a basketball commentator. I do play-by-play on the Basketball Champions League, which is where 2 seasons ago, only 2 seasons ago, I first came across Tuomas Iisalo and his extraordinary Bonn team. Now, for context, Telekom Baskets Bonn, as they were known then. I think they're still Telekom Bonn. It's very confusing. Sponsor name's Europe. It's weird. Anyway, they had never won anything. I mean, they had 0 titles to their name. A few second places and stuff, but never any major trophies. Iisalo comes in the Basketball Champions League, which is, depending on how you ask, the second or third tier competition in Europe. We basically have 2 second tier competitions, and that's very relevant to all of this. But they were not even close to favorites. They really impressed me every time I saw them play, because he brought together this motley crew. Like, this wasn't like he had a big budget to fix it. He managed to find the players and the situations for the players he had that he didn't get to select, basically, that he could find the best way to optimize their usage. Like, he took crazy ones, like, like Kramer, Dean, but the one that comes out to me most, of course, is TJ Shorts. Like, he brought TJ Shorts to a stage and a level that he hadn't played on before, and turned Shorts into the MVP of that competition. Bonn went to the Final Four, which is in Malaga, against Unicaja Malaga in the semi-final. Unicaja, the favourites to get to win it. They had just won the cup in Spain. They were competing heavily to win a title in Spain, and everything said Unicaja is by far and away the best team in this competition. they're going to win this. And Bonn, yeah, they went and beat them, and then beat Jerusalem in the final to record their first ever major triumph ever. And they only lost the German finals in a Game 5 decider. So, that was a pretty good season for a team with, again, not much money. And in Germany, they weren't close to the highest budget. Although the team that beat them in the finals weren't either, but that's a different story. They still took out some pretty serious sides along the way. But that's only the beginning, because, of course, he didn't stay at Bonn. He went to Paris the next season. That's last season just gone. And was in Eurocup, which is the other secondary competition, but is the one that gets you into EuroLeague. He brought the spine of that Bonn team, about 4 players, with him to Paris. And they absolutely ran roughshod over it. They were extraordinary. They dominated. Now, you could argue they were the strongest team on paper in the competition, but I don't think their advantage was as obvious as it actually ended up appearing on the court, as in, like, the on-paper advantage. I think it was talked about a bit more than it should have been. And it sort of detracted from just how good a season Iisalo and Paris actually had to win that competition. And that got them promoted to EuroLeague. So you're thinking, well, Iisalo, he's won the Basketball Champions League, he's won, the Euro Cup. Now he gets to coach at the highest level of Europe while still a very, very young man. What an achievement. And he left. Yeah, he left because he got offered an assistant job with y'all, the Grizz. And it was a bit of a shock. Paris have already done okay without him, by the way, but that's not relevant too much to this video, that's more to do with TJ Shorts finding his true self, and putting it mildly. It was a huge, huge shock. And so you're thinking, wow, Iisalo's betting on himself, but, is he really going to get a look in, in Memphis? Got a good team, but it's very, different experience to, coaching in Europe. It's a different playing style, it's a different mentality. And, of course, he has become a guy that is bought into by the Memphis management so much that when they decided to, well, one, they did decide to pull the trigger and get rid of the head coach, and 2, said, okay, here's your audition. And to me, this is an audition, and here's why. So think of this as a description of what a coach really, really likes. Up-tempo offense, grit and grind defense, internal accountability amongst the players, wants to develop leaders in the court, and also isn't afraid to go ISO ball on offense. Gosh, I wonder what sort of team might really, really like that as a coach. Look at this Memphis roster, and even for the fans, you're bringing a bit of the grit and grind while you're still getting the beauty of Ja Morant play. And you got a guy who, again, is more relatable to someone like Ja and to the other younger guys on the squad, who would talk to them about, sort of how to, keep themselves together, professionally as players without talking down to them, essentially. He's talking to them as a peer while still also the boss. It's, again, unique situation. He's bringing these coaching philosophies, which are so easy to get buy-in on, because when you look at what Memphis have, that's kind of what these guys want to do, what they're built for, what they love to do as a basketball players. And Iisalo was like, guys, you're never going to believe what my favorite type of basketball is. So to me, that blend, that mix is great. And naturally, this is a guy who knows how to take opportunity. So in Bonn, everyone's there, yeah, he's a good young coach, let's see how he does. Give him 5-6 years, he might be in EuroLeague, maybe a little longer, but he'll do well. In 2 years, he was in EuroLeague and said, I don't need that, which is a big thing to say. Took his assistant job, like I said, in Memphis, because he bet on himself. He took a Bonn team, which wasn't fancied, to the title. He took a Paris team, which had far more expectation than really should have been on it, to the title. And now he's at Memphis, where everybody's saying, they'll be in the postseason, but will they really make noise? And his natural inner reaction as a coach is like, oh, excellent. Nobody's betting on us. We are going... I should not have swallowed coffee. We are going to have fun. And for those of you wondering what the quick cut was, I swallowed coffee down the wrong hole, and I coughed way too much for this video. Anyway, back on topic. So, Iisalo is going to have a team he can have fun with, but I think they can make real noise in the postseason with him as coach. Now, can they win it all this year? I don't know. Can they take out teams that they probably would be expected not to take out? Yes, absolutely. I look at this side and I see a series where they are underrated and them getting the win. I really do. And that's the difference there's a big difference between that and going all the way, just to be clear. But, that's not anything to sniff at. If you win a series where you're clearly unfancied, that's obviously going to help build momentum for the year ahead and the years after that. So yeah, I think Iisalo can really make a lot out of this audition. Like, he's not been offered the job full time yet, but I think given what he's got to work with in the remainder of this regular season and into the postseason, I would be shocked if he does not make an excellent impression. And that comes to, the front office, the ownership, but especially the players. This is a guy who players love working with. Like, we've seen it basically because he's very good at putting them in the best place to be the best version of their natural ballers. Like, he's not trying to get them to be something they're not. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but like, sometimes you got to do the square peg round hole stuff. And it can be challenging. Whereas you go, well, actually, oh, that terrible term, but actually, like, Iisalo is like, listen, what's the best we can do with this, and how do we make it twisted into some weird shape where all those pieces doing what they like doing can win? What more can you ask for in a coach? And so, yeah, I think that's going to be a great experience for fans in Memphis. I love Memphis, by the way. It's been 7 years since I was there. Fantastic city, great food, great drink, and just great people. And yeah, so I hopefully will get over to see a game in the not too distant future. But you don't have to wait that long to see me again, because I'm, of course, on the road this week, as most of you know. We have a huge series on the site going up this week about the NBA's plans for Europe. I'm going to Lille for the Euro Cup Women final second leg. There's an awful lot going on this week. But if you haven't already, please subscribe. It really does help the channel. Like, share, comment, do all the YouTube things. Tell me what you think Iisalo will be like as the coach of the Grizz. But until, later this week, I will see you soon.